Howdy, everybody. We're back with some more RPG horror stories. Let's jump into it. Our first story is going to be from Lucid Ludes and is titled, Yeah, I'm Quitting. After 7 years of being a dungeon master, 1.5 long run campaigns, and many one-shots, I think I'm just done. Why? Scheduling sucks. What sucks more is when players don't even put in the effort to plan. At all. To which, as a DM, I've tried countless times to get everyone together and just end up looking like the overly obsessed fool. So I simply resigned myself to the role of, I'm available, just let me know if the rest of you are, and we can play. To which it became evidently clear how much D&D is of any importance to most people. That's to say little to none at all. Which, I get, it's just a game, but I'm tired of the runaround and having to pull teeth just to get an answer. Next up, people I've played with rarely show interest in the game or world that I've made. Or some overly just use their phones, laptops, etc. during the game. Now, I don't mind most of the time. But when you're setting up appointments for your wedding, which you had the entire day to do ahead of time, or literally playing some PC game, deciding it's because of your ADHD, it gets old. Okay, planning wedding appointments, perhaps their soon-to-be spouse wasn't available until that day that y'all end up playing, though pre-planning ahead of time about availability would be the polite thing to do. And to be honest, if you're going to be just focused on that, I don't know, calling people and setting up like florists, whatever, planning a wedding, maybe don't play D&D that day then if they're doing it during session. But to cite ADHD for why you're playing a PC game while you play D&D, to be honest, that's bullshit. I think that's using your ADHD to be an asshole. That's using it as an excuse. When you're playing, be present, focus on the game, and play. Otherwise, don't. It's rude and a disservice to others with ADHD to blame it on you wanting to play a video game while you don't pay attention to D&D. It's a cop-out. Don't do it. To be honest, if people don't want to participate, that's okay. Just get rid of those people and find people that are available to play. Set expectations ahead of time. Set the expectation that people will make their availability known ahead of time, and when they're in game, they'll be listening and present themselves properly with minimal distractions. It's not that much to ask. And to be honest, I think there's a lot of people out there that want to get to play a game. I think OP just has dick players or players that just don't value D&D, which it's okay if you don't value, playing a ttrpg. You're not that big into it. But if you're not going to be, then don't play. When you're doing something collaborative like this, your sole focus should be on the game that you're playing, not on whatever the fuck else you're doing. Not only that, but most players rarely ever know what's going on, yet want this deep backstory for their characters, they never take notes, and then complain that they never know what's going on. It's gotten to a point where I just don't prep anymore, because if the players aren't going to show any serious interest, why am I going to go out of my way to waste time on fleshing out a season that goes beyond just planning an encounter or two and reading my footnote of the previous session for text? I think he meant session, not season. They typed in season. Also, just the pet peeves. No note-taking, resource tracking, communication in and out of game, refusal to make even a sentence relating to what a character's origin can be, instead putting it in my hands of who your character actually is, and then when I come up with it, they either give a quick, yeah, this is cool, or just no feedback at all. I'd like to discuss stuff and develop a character with you. Last-minute call-offs. No one's using a literal Discord server I've made specifically to discuss these things except to shitpost during sessions. I've had players that want to shitpost during sessions. I don't mind. The memes are generally revolving around what's happening in game, so I don't personally have an issue with it. But I can see why people would be distracted by memes getting posted in a chat during session. Players being pissy about details in previous sessions they were clearly told about. Details I took notes of, by the way. That one player that decides to break away from the group to go do something random and expects all this attention on them and whatever they're doing, basically trying to derail the entire session. I'd forgive all of these if we didn't have a session 0. I clearly laid out the tone for the campaign I've coached new players through. Overall, my experience as a DM has been an enlightening one. I love the game, I love storytelling with friends, but sometimes, at times like these when we're going on our 7th week of no games due to no one communicating or very poor planning, I tend to feel disheartened. Now, a few of my players are starting to try and get a game together and I just don't want to deal with it, while others are simply saying, we can do it next week. Sure. I'm just tired of putting in the effort, thinking of cool things for my friends for very little, if any, reciprocation. So yeah, I'm just going to quit. I love D&D, but I hate the logistics. OP is right. Logistics can be a pain in the ass. I can very much understand the frustration. I think the issue really here is, though, OP has bad players. They're not necessarily horrible friends, though I think they're doing him a disservice by not respecting the time he's putting into the game. But overall, OP really just has bad players. You need to dump them and get new ones. I'm not saying you need to stop being friends with these people. Just don't play D&D with these people. If you want to, you can let them know that you're tired of the lack of people paying attention, being available, and the disrespect towards the work you are putting into the campaign. Granted, if you do something like that, I'm sure they'll go, oh, we'll change. No, please. Just don't listen. Just end the campaign and either become a player in a new one, which it sounds like OP needs to do here. OP needs to take a backseat for a little while and just kind of vibe and be a player. Or DM again and just find better players. There are tons of players out there that are looking for someone who puts on a campaign like the ones OP is trying to run, especially online. You don't need to deal with players that aren't paying attention, are being a dick and playing video games during sessions, and who get pissy because they forget things because they refuse to take notes. Don't put yourself through it. Get rid of your players. Don't have to get rid of them as friends, but get rid of them as players. Move on to something else. Okay. Oof. Okay. I think it's gone. If you guys haven't yet, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to go and follow me on Twitch. Don't ask me why, but I stream throughout the week, and I would really appreciate it. There'll be a link down in the description. I gotta hide. I think it found me. Our next story is going to be from user One Angry Duck. It is titled "The Campaign Ends When Birthday Boy Gets Drunk Then Starts Crying and Yelling at Everyone." This happened a few years ago with a group of friends in their 20s or 30s. The campaign was already a bit shaky because a couple of the players were pretty adversarial towards the DM and were frequently challenging his rulings, but overall we were having a good enough time to keep it going. We usually played online, but for one of the players' birthdays, one of the more adversarial ones, we decided to hold an in-person session. We started playing, all was going well, and we were having a good time. About an hour in, Birthday Boy brought out a bottle of whiskey and people started taking shots. Birthday Boy decided to have too many shots. Okay, drinking or weed with ttrpgs, I'm personally okay with it as long as my players are not getting hammered or blasted. I've DM'd for people that were insanely drunk, and it is very annoying trying to corral those that are very heavily inebriated. I draw a line, and if someone's going to be completely shit-faced during a session, personally I prefer they take a back seat and sit quietly in the background if they get to even play at all. It can be very annoying to have someone get so drunk that they end up falling asleep, or they're trying to derail the session with some dumb drunk idea they came up with and are just letting their thoughts spill out into the void for all to see. We keep playing a little while longer, and we hit a point where our characters are hiding in a church from evil stuff outside. We're into the city where the church is, and there is a large group of townsfolk inside. We discovered that an old noblewoman, also in the church, has betrayed us. Our paladin, another more adversarial player, whips out his sword and announces that he is going to kill her. DM jumps in with a, "Are you sure?" reminding us that the noblewoman is a prominent person in the city. We are strangers, and we have no actual evidence of the betrayal. In other words, if we kill her, then the rest of the people in the church would immediately turn against us and become hostile. DM also ruled that killing her would break the paladin's oath, which was controversial because he was a vengeance paladin. Okay, it's definitely a decision to kill a noblewoman in a church that you're actively hiding in from monsters or whatever evils outside. Now, would that not potentially cause those monsters or evil to break in and hurt the townsfolk if you end up causing that big ruckus? This is just me thinking out loud here, but let's talk about the oath. So part of Oath of Vengeance, there's a specific part that says, fight the greater evil. Faced with a choice of fighting my sworn foes or combating a lesser evil, I choose the greater evil. Now, if the DM considers the evil ongoing outside to be the quote-unquote greater evil, I can see the argument that's being made for the possibility of just striking down this noblewoman as being oath-breaking. There is another part of the oath called No Mercy for the Wicked, and it says that ordinary foes might win my mercy, but my sworn enemies do not. So if the old noblewoman is considered more like ordinary of a foe, I guess, I can also see the want to make killing them oath-breaking instead of showing them mercy. Perhaps a warning in this instance would do, like their holy symbol cracks slightly and won't fix itself until the greater evil outside is dealt with or something like that, instead of just completely breaking the oath altogether. It kind of depends on how the DM wants to run the campaign, and if they're really going to get into the minutia of a paladin's oath, especially a vengeance paladin, which tends to be the more violent of all the paladin oaths out there, other than maybe Oathbreaker or Conquest. The DM emphasized that we can do what we want, but actions have consequences. This is something he frequently told us. And DM isn't wrong here. Actions can and should have consequences. After a brief discussion, Paladin, obviously annoyed, decides not to kill the noblewoman, and we continue playing. But Paladin and Birthday Boy keep whispering to each other in a side conversation, obviously complaining about the DM and not really paying attention to the game. Someone else finally mentions that their side conversations making it hard to play. That's when Birthday Boy, several shots into the bottle of whiskey, blew up. He starts yelling about how the DM is being unfair and not letting us do what we want to do. He goes on a rant about how we're being railroaded and we don't have any choices, while getting more and more emotional and starting to cry. Paladin spoke up in support of Birthday Boy. Someone else tried to calm them both down, and DM did his best to explain the decision making. This continued for about half an hour. I jumped in a couple of times to try to get us back on track, but at that point it was all drunken emotion and no reason from the Birthday Boy. After 30 minutes of debate, Birthday Boy started hurling personal insults at people, and it became obvious that we weren't getting back to playing. DM and I packed up and left. The next day, DM sent a message to the group chat saying that he misruled on the Paladin breaking his oath, but he emphasized again that we were strangers in the city and killing a prominent noblewoman in that moment would not have gone well for us. Again, actions have consequences. Paladin responded by saying he appreciated the extra information, but Birthday Boy said nothing. No response to that, no apology for his behavior, nothing like that. We never scheduled another session and the campaign died. Ouch, Drunken. Birthday Boy kind of ruined an entire campaign there. I can understand why Birthday Boy didn't say anything, because they probably realized after they woke up the next day that they fucked up and completely caused a whole mess, like a big mess. This is part of the reason it can be helpful to talk things out when people are sober. Reasons for why things should or shouldn't happen, and players' thoughts on any rulings that occur. Don't be afraid to talk it out. It can be helpful to explain both, perspective of both player and DM, and this can help shift expectations of the game back and forth and keeping things kind of in line so both sides kind of know what's going on and why. Players then don't feel like they're being railroaded or not being allowed to do things, and then the DM can gain perspective on how or why their players are choosing to do certain things. Just talk it out. It'll save you a ton of trouble later on. It'll stop certain situations from becoming horrible and explosive like we saw here. But also, that being said, do not get shit-faced and play D&D. If you're gonna drink, have a drink or two. Get yourself maybe a little loosened up, or if you're gonna, do weed or something, do a little bit of weed. Don't try to send yourself to Cloud fucking 9. Just make sure if you're gonna do stuff while you play D&D, do it responsibly, because it's not only you that you're affecting in that situation, it's the entire group of people. And even beyond that potentially as well, because if you traveled somewhere to go play in person, you have to get home somehow. And if you're not being smart and you decide to drive or something, that could cause a lot of issues. Don't do that. Okay, our last story for this week is going to be from user Dids My Middle Name and is titled, Am I Being a Difficult Player? Hi everyone, sorry if this doesn't fit here, I just need to get this off my chest. I think I might be a problem player. My husband has DM'd for this group for 2 years. Around April this year, they started a new campaign and my husband invited me to play. I tried my best to role play and learn the rules. I've never played in a serious campaign before, so it was a lot to learn. It was all going well until I noticed one of the other players kept correcting me every time I tried to do anything. At first it was nice as it was helpful and it helped me learn the rules. However, 6 months in, I didn't need that help anymore. Yet every time I wanted to do something, it was looked down upon by said player above. He was constantly rule checking me over every little rule. It got to a point where a month ago my character cast Disguise Self and turned into a big intimidating NPC. I said something like, haha, now I can see above the crowd. The other player said, actually, that's not how Disguise Self works. I ended up snapping at him, saying something along the lines of, just let me have fun, geez. It was such a trivial thing, and I know I shouldn't have gotten frustrated over it. The DM had spoken to said player multiple times, asking them to calm down when it came to the rules, saying he, the DM, would make judgment. Yet every time this player just has to say something. It's driving me nuts, but I hate that it's driving me nuts. It's causing me to resent the sourpuss about it all. I feel like I'm letting everyone down by being grumpy and stressed during our sessions, especially because no one else seems bothered. I just don't know what to do anymore. Okay, I don't necessarily think OP's being a difficult player here. They are playing with somebody who is clearly a rules lawyer and then is raining on their parade. The rules, especially in 5e, are a guide. They are not law. The DM is the one that makes final decisions on rules and how they will be interpreted, not the rules lawyer. The DM really needs to have a chat to get them to calm down, more than just what they've done prior. This behavior is getting to a point where it's disruptive, and I don't mean because OP snapped at them. I mean because they're causing an issue every time OP tries to do something that might just leave the confines of the rules. I can understand OP's annoyance and the feelings they're having. I too would be disheartened if every time I tried to be creative, which is a big point of playing ttrpgs, I was immediately snubbed or talked down to. The rules lawyer is being detrimental. Now, I'd be curious if this person is doing the same thing to other players at the table. Are they doing it because OP is DM's spouse and perhaps they think they're getting favoritism potentially? Is it because OP is the new person at the table and this person is picking on them? Or this person just thinks they're an idiot and doesn't know how to play because of the new person? Either way, it's not constructive and it needs to stop. The DM needs to be the one to step in here, or OP needs to put their foot down, because this is going to build and build and build until OP ends up exploding and quitting because they're just pissed off from playing. Edit/update. Hi again, I didn't expect to get such a response. Thanks to everyone for your input. I do apologize. I left this post very vague, mainly because I know my husband is on this subreddit and I didn't want him to find it, but also because I wrote it quickly out of frustration. The replies have been very interesting to read. This player isn't being sexist. I wouldn't say he's picking on me, but I must be making most of the mistakes at the table. It's 3 male players and 2 female players, including myself. However, the other female player will be gone for the next month, and she's the one I always get up to mischiefs with, so she'll definitely be missed. A few of the other players have agreed that this player is very bossy with the rules, but it doesn't really bother them that much. They've all played 3 campaigns together, though. We both have diagnosed ADHD, which I think comes into play. Seems to be a theme with our stories this week. He's a lovely guy. He gets very eager to share his opinion and the rules, which I find overwhelming, but it's coming from a good place. Okay, to me, this reads that the other players are used to rules lawyers bullshit. Got it. I think the ADHD is a bit of a cop. No, I don't have ADHD, so it's coming from a slight place of ignorance, but I don't think you should blame ADHD for why somebody acts a certain way, because it's when you play group games, there's an expectation that you should be kind to others and that you should treat others how you want to be treated. So I think going like, oh, well, you know, Steve's just a dick with the rules because he's got ADHD, I think it's a cop-out. Like, yes, ADHD or autism or, you know, whatever, you know, you either were born with, have going on in your life, they can negatively affect you in certain ways. They can make the journey more difficult for you. They can cause bumps in the road. They can make your experience different from everybody else. But at the end of the day, the expectation is that you need to be polite to other people and you need to treat everybody else with at least a modicum of respect. And so to sit there and be correcting somebody over and over and over and over again, every time they try to do something, and even after the DM has told you, hey, I'll be the one to make judgment calls, you don't get to do that. You need to, like, that should be hey, here's your sign. Stop it. That's how it should be. A few people have pointed out that I should know the rules better, that after 6 months, I shouldn't be forgetting things like that, which I agree with. I've always been a horrible reader and my memory is awful. Remembering all the specifics of every spell just isn't going to happen. I think this is why this player stepped in so much. The other players at the table tend to clarify the rules as they're casting them to make sure it's done right, whereas I jump right into casting and don't think too hard. I had a chat with the DM about it again. He said the other player has offered to leave if it means I'll enjoy playing again. I said absolutely not. He's one of the original members of the group, and I would prefer that he continue to play. He's a lot more invested in his character in the game overall. My husband and I have agreed I'll step down for a few weeks to take a break and see where I am in the future. I haven't been mentally well lately from other things, so it will probably be a much needed break. My husband said he'll run some one-shots so I can join in here and there. And at the end of the day, I think I was being too sensitive and taking every time the other player corrected me as a personal attack, which I logically know is not true. The other player can be very intense when it comes to the rules. He said he will step back the next time I play and let the DM make the rulings. Thanks for reading this. It's quite long. I hope it makes sense as I'm very sleep deprived at this moment. I really do appreciate everybody's input and support. All right, a little bit to unpack here. For spells, I'm going to be honest, rules, nobody's going to remember every single, you should know the general stuff for how your class works. Especially for spells, though, nobody's going to remember every single detail. So like the other players do, I often find it's helpful to read out what the spell does if you're a player. Just be like, hey, I'm casting Fireball. It has a 20-foot radius. This means everybody within 20 feet, a 20-foot radius in the zone, they got to make a dex saving throw DC. Here's my DC. Or they take 8d6 fire damage on a failed save, half of that on a successful one. Read it out. Partially that'll help you remember and learn it as you go. And that's also to make sure that you're acting within the confines of the spell itself. Assuming your party takes this, the way the spells are written as very rigid in the rules. To me, it sounds like it's more than just a little bit than rules corrections or assisting, though, from the way it sounds. Perhaps that's maybe the player is not in this. The rules lawyer is not intending to be that way. But the thing is, for me at least, if you were told no, or you were told you need to correct this, that to me says that it's clearly more than that. Perhaps the problem player is very intense when they clarify or decide to point things out. But ultimately, the DM is the one who has final say, and they should be the ones making the calls, not that player. Their want to be a rules lawyer, to me, in my interpretation of the story, is detrimental, and they need to check themselves. I will say perhaps it's good that OP's taking a break. They can reevaluate if they want to continue playing or continue playing with this party, because perhaps they would do better with a different group. But I personally think that player, the rules lawyer here, is an issue that needs to be addressed. If a player is having issues with the rules, the DM should be the one to talk with them, not the rules lawyer jumping in, arguing a case on whether somebody should or should not be allowed to do something. That's going to be it for me today. Thank you guys all for hanging out. I would love to know your thoughts on those comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and catch me on Twitch. I'll see you guys on the next one. Everybody.